Hey guys! Today I'm going to be going over some color theory basics for artists, so grab a drink and settle in because this is kind of a long one. I'm going to be honest, I have literally put this video off for so long because color theory is kind of a lot to cover, especially if you're in the beginning stages of making art, but I do think a video like this would have been really helpful to me when I was getting started with digital art. And so that's kind of the mindset I'm going into when making this video. I'm going to try and keep things really simple and show some examples of concepts as best I can, with hopefully without overwhelming you guys too much. I'm still learning myself, but I am going to share some things that I find useful and currently use in my art process. So I want to start by going over a couple of terms to describe colors, just to make sure we're all on the same page here. So we have hue, saturation, and value. Hue is basically just what the color is. In Procreate, this is your top slider. That's going to change the hue. And then saturation is how intense the color is, like the brightness. And that's going to be changed by the middle slider. And value is how dark or light the color is. And that's going to be changed by the third slider. You'll notice too on this box here, your saturation is moving at a horizontal level, and then the value is changed by the vertical level. So let's go over what the heck color theory is exactly. Color theory is this concept that colors interact and play together in a certain way when they're around each other, and as artists we can use that to our advantage. So instead of shading colors, just using the darker and lighter shades of that color, we can actually use color theory to find different ways to shade things that keep our colors vibrant and make our paintings more pleasing to look at. So let me show you really quickly what I mean by that. So let's say I'm shading this ball, right? I could just make my shadows a darker shade and my lighting a lighter shade, and use white for the highlight and black for the very, very dark shadows. Or instead of changing the value of my base color, I can change the hue and saturation of the color so that it looks like a shadow without being this muddy brownish color. And my lighting doesn't have to be bright white. I could actually use neon yellow or green, and it can still convey that it's this bright light. This is kind of a crappy demonstration, but you can kind of see the difference in what I'm talking about here. So to do this in our paintings, I think the best two concepts to use are complementary colors and warm versus cool colors. So let's start with complementary colors. There are a lot of different color combinations out there, but I'm just going to talk about complementary colors in this video. These are just colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel, and whenever you see them together, they contrast each other really well. So for example, if you have a character with orange hair, you can put a blue background behind them, and it creates this really nice contrast that's pleasing to the eye. But you can also take this a step further and sort of strategically place complementary colors close to your focal point on your painting. Your focal point is just where you want the viewer to look first. So in portraits, this is usually the face or hands. So if you can find a way to place complementary colors near this spot, that's a good way to emphasize hey, this is where I want you to look. And just to show you kind of an example of this, in this painting that I recently did, the blue of the character's eyes contrasts really well with all of these orangey shades around her. And it's likely the first thing that you see whenever you look at this painting. But you can also notice how down here, I don't really have any complementary colors and there's not a lot of contrast because I don't want you to look down here. This helps give more of a dynamic piece. And there's other factors that play into focal points, but using color theory is a great way to do this. Another thing I want to talk about is using warm versus cool colors. So this is the idea that colors can be warm, like reds and oranges and yellows, or they can be cool, like blues and greens. And when you have a nice balance of these colors, it can add a lot of appeal to a painting. A really common use of this is whenever you have warm lighting, your shadows will be cool. And if you have lighting that is cool, your shadows will be warm. Sunshine, for example, is really common. It's a warm light, so you'll notice that like shadows tend to be like blues and purples because they're a cool color. So yeah, using warm and cool colors is a really easy way to add contrast, and it can have a really cool effect in your paintings. I've actually been using this a lot in my shading technique lately. So if I have really warm shadows, I'll add a little bit of cool color to them, and it just makes it look so much better. So here's an example of me doing that in this painting. Here's the before and after. Before, after. So to go back to this ball shading example, if we were to use the warm versus cool colors, we could say we want to make the lighting very warm. So we'll use some warm colors to do our lighting, and then we can make the shadows a cool color. And you can see when I put these two side by side, you can see how much more vibrant the ball on the right looks than the one on the left, where all I did was change the values. So an important thing to remember is whenever you're shading, you want to think in saturation and hue and not necessarily value. And you'll also notice for the highlight on this ball, I used a super bright, almost neon blue. And if we remember our complementary colors, this is the complement to orange. It's all connected, it all comes together. So if we can keep these two concepts in mind when we're painting, if we try to use complementary colors and warm versus cool colors, you can create really interesting color palettes in your paintings, which is kind of the whole idea behind color theory, is just using these concepts of color interacting to our advantage. I hope I explained these ideas in a way that wasn't too confusing. Yeah, so give it a try. Let me know how it goes for you. I hope you found this video helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, if you have any questions about color theory or just like art stuff in general, leave them down below, and I don't care to try to answer what I can. Like I said, I'm not a guru on color theory at all. This is just, kind of what I've learned so far. And yeah, hopefully you find it helpful, and I'll see you guys in the next one.